What's up, Scyushi Squad? We are back in some more Trove, and this video has been long overdue, hasn't it? Today, we're going to be trying out the Bard at 30... Wait, why is he at 35 KPR? Oh, because I'm using the Weirdo banner. Right. Alright. So we're going to be trying out the Bard in U10 difficulty for 5 minutes, basically, and then we're going to end up trying him out in the Delves, which is kind of exciting because we haven't really seen him in the Delves that much. I think I used him in the Delves like a handful of times, but it's going to be interesting to see how is he going to end up competing against actual strong enemies. So this is kind of a return to form with the 35k series, which we still got to do a redo of the Chloromancer, just because, you know, Chloromancer did end up having a rework. But I want to thank you guys for being so patient with me. I'm trying to get videos a little bit back in order, but basically I've got one more week of family visiting, and then things should end up settling down hence afterwards. So anyways, let me get my timer out right here, set up the stopwatch, and what we're going to be doing for our build is just kind of standard stuff. We could end up actually swapping out Death-defying for a couple other options. There's Conjurer's Vial, but also Vial of Unleashed Power is really good, because maybe we'll end up trying it. I don't know. I could try it some other time. We'll take the safety strat today. But Vial of Unleashed Power is really good for the Bard, just because of the fact that it's going to trigger your emblems every time you end up using your ultimate ability, and it's also going to end up healing you. But the point is that that is exclusively how you heal. You're not going to be able to heal yourself as much with your flasks themselves. You have to just be spamming your ult, which of course you're already doing with this guy anyways. Using Unyielding, I guess I don't really need to use that, but it's not like I need the damage. And then we're going to be using Trailblazing and, you know, Crystal 4 Hat, Crystal 3 Fist, and Crystal 4 Face, all with movement speed and attack speed as the main stats, and then Aviar as the ally, which gives us light and magic damage and so on and so forth. Oh, and then using the Candy Barb subclass ability, just because when Candy triggers, it can give us more movement speed. And otherwise, let us go. Okay, where is something? Okay. Already using the ultimate ability, you can see our movement speed is at 164. This is without tagging an enemy and without using Trailblazing. If I use Trailblazing, we're at 192. But the point is that very easily, we end up getting more speed than mount movement speed, even by using a Knight subclass ability, because a Knight subclass ability is going to get our mount movement speed to 125 to 130 at maximum. But that's, of course, if you have like a 30 KPR Knight to 35 KPR. When you're doing dungeons, I also found that using your number 1 ability is more useful than I thought initially. Like, I've talked about this before, where I didn't really feel like the, you know, our ultimate ability or our number 1 ability and stuff like that. There were certain abilities where I talked about, whoopsie daisy, I don't even have bombs on my hotbar, where I talked about, oh, this ability is kind of useless, right? But I find that I'm using my number 1 ability a lot more than I was previously, just because your number 1 ability can be really good for not only clearing 30 enemy dungeons, just because it'll literally one-shot all of those enemies, but also just because of the fact that it'll end up tagging so many enemies from a distance, right? This dungeon's gonna kind of suck for doing this, but I mean, you can see we're already able to actually like defeat bosses and everything around us, no problemo. I'm pretty darn powerful on this guy. It's doing 17k every single hit, and we're not even using the battle aura or anything like that, because if we are trying to absolutely, sorry, I'm just trying to see where we go here. If we're trying to absolutely maximize our damage and our speed and efficiency, what we're going to basically be doing is we're performing all of the actions of our ultimate ability that it's telling us to, even though it seems to be really janky and not working very well. Where the heck is the basement? God, I hate this dungeon so much. But I'm going to try and get at least up to 7 stacks, which we just hit that right now, because that's going to end up giving us more damage. But we're also going to just keep pushing a little bit more than that at the sake of getting maximum, like absolute maximum stats, or stacks, sorry, because that's going to end up making the casting very, very consistent. So you can see I can put battle aura, timer increase, and then movement speed aura. And then basically the whole point is we're trying to kind of keep all of our abilities in check and keep using the abilities that are shown at the bottom of the screen so that we can end up keeping ourselves at maximum stacks, which is simple enough to do. It really is. The only one that kind of stops us from moving is the one that requires us to roll. And you can see we're already absolutely maxed out, doing everything that we can. We've got our movement speed buff and our damage buff, and we're at 7 stacks at the minimum, so we can end up doing even more damage. And now we're doing 60 mil, which again is not like, it's not required in order to even handle U10. It's just, that's how powerful this guy can end up being. Like, it's crazy, dude. On top of the fact that, as you can see, if we've got like, if the stars align and everything ends up triggering, including like pyro disc, which we haven't actually had it trigger. Let me see if I can get it to trigger at the same time that I've got like all of our movement speed auras and everything like that. It is pretty random, but at least we've got, okay, so now we're at 234 movement speed, just to give you guys a quick little example. And you can get this movement speed pretty consistently, especially if you're using the Vial of Unleashed Power, because every time you use your ult, you're going to be triggering Trailblazing over and over, which can end up being, you know, really, really cool to trigger it that often. Sorry, I just noticed there's not really any dungeons nearby or anything. I'm just kind of trying to focus on too many things at once. That's the only downside that I would say there is to the Bard, is generally speaking, I don't bother trying to keep my ultimate at maximum stacks, just because of the fact that it takes like a lot of extra brain power to try and do that and commentate at the same time, like trying to keep all of my stacks at maximum, as well as maximizing my speed, you know, trying to explain these things to you, and it just is a little bit overwhelming. That's what I'll say about this character, which can end up being a lot of fun and very stimulating compared to other classes in the game for sure. Now, as far as just handling normal dungeons and stuff like that, obviously we don't need to have max stats, or at least I don't, you know, and I'm not trying to say that in an arrogant way or anything like that. I'm just saying that it doesn't really matter, and generally speaking, when I'm playing, I don't bother trying to keep myself at max stats because, max stacks, sorry, because I don't really care about being at absolute efficiency. I would rather have something that is just consistently good, where I don't have to think very much, and the Bard delivers in that regard. Now, as far as when we end up getting into the Delves, that's where the goal is going to be trying to get as close to maximum stacks, if not just 7 stacks, before we end up reaching the boss. That's kind of the main goal, just because that's how this character works, and that's how you end up getting the maximum amount of damage, you know, end up doing all that stuff. Anyways, let me get things set up here. Also, the game crashed. This Trove loading screen mod has never been more appropriate. Like, seriously. So anyways, what we're going to be doing today is it's a little bit higher of a depth. This is already going to boost us well over U10 difficulty, maybe even U11. I don't know, but I've tried this with some of the other characters anyways, so let's see if we can even handle 129 depth. There's not that many classes that can end up handling this. This will probably end up being a pretty poor example, because honestly, I should give you guys a more realistic goal of 115 depth and then higher than that. But we're going to attempt it and see what ends up happening. So for normal enemies, you can see already these guys are pretty darn powerful. So let's try and see if I can end up getting to maximum stacks as soon as possible, because we do actually have to kill creatures, and these guys are no pushover at this depth. I'm surprised though, we do seem to be able to handle them, and that will probably become a lot easier. Yeah, as we end up getting to that 7 stack, you can see our damage multiplier is much better now, so we're actually doing way more damage. So let's also get our battle aura and keep our speed aura going, even though our speed aura doesn't matter too much, but the battle aura in combination with our 7 stacks, and now we're actually, it's very manageable. It's very manageable. I would probably Yeah, you know what? I'm going to swap over Trailblazing for Arcane just because of the fact that I need to have that extra amount of damage. So just had to wait for my flask there. And this is where, again, you know, Unleashed Power can end up being a really useful vial, but we sure as heck would not be using it in here just because these enemies are so freaking powerful. Now, another thing, too, to consider is I'm in a bad habit right now where I'm constantly trying to keep our movement speed buff going, but because these enemies are so powerful, we actually don't need to do that. It's actually really easy to end up keeping this character at its maximum efficiency in terms of damage, because all we actually have to do is cast her ult once to get the battle buff, and then again to end up refilling the bar, and that's pretty much it. We don't need to end up worrying about getting more speed or anything like that, which means all that we have to do is worry about getting 3 more stacks before the ultimate ability ends up completely wearing out. But you can see the amount of damage we're doing is fine. That's not really my top concern. The problem is that not only, yeah, we're not killing these enemies fast enough, but most of all, it's the comparison of the survivability. You know, the other characters are just going to end up surviving a lot better because my go-to for a class for the Delves is usually Tomb Raiser or Draco being some of the strongest, because not only do they end up having the damage output that we need, but they also give us a lot of survivability. Not to say that the Bard doesn't have survivability, it's just not as good as theirs. And I mean, frankly speaking, when we're talking about like Trove and how the Delves works, physical characters generally are not very powerful, or should I say melee characters, right? So the Bard technically is a magic character, but we are still using a melee weapon, and I would argue that the way the character operates is still kind of very similar to how melee characters operate. And I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this, honestly speaking. I'm just trying to make the point across that you can see the Bard can handle these high depths, and we are handling it solo. And the reason why we're able to do that is just because the damage of this character is so freaking high that it doesn't really matter what our survivability is. It's just, frankly speaking, I would have a much easier time with this if I was using another character that had, and there goes all of my stacks because something glitched out right there with my ultimate ability. That always ends up happening with the Bard, unfortunately. Like, sometimes you'll end up casting and it just doesn't cast everything. Like you can see there, my ultimate ability ended up wearing out, and it doesn't make any sense because I just ended up refreshing it. Like, okay. And not to mention, this is just an absolute chore of a delve, just because these enemies are constantly generating this stupid ice. Our stacks are getting really glitchy. Yeah, okay. So anyways, I'm going to focus up and I'm going to try and get to maximum stacks. I mean, thankfully we can build up our stacks even before the boss anyways, like right at the boss. But it's just in terms of if you want to end up being as efficient as possible, right? So let me see if I can end up building up my stacks nice and quick. We can always do a right click to give us some invulnerability frames, by the way, if we're dealing with some trouble. So we'll get battle aura, movement aura, or battle aura, and then refresh our ultimate, sorry. And then there we go. We've already got the last enemy down. So now let's just focus on building our stacks back up. Okay, we're good. And then again, I could end up going battle aura, refresh our ult, give me movement speed, and then let's start focusing on building up our ultimate. We can also, as this guy, he's very, like, because the Bard is so fast, we could actually always end up toggling to our, you know, our Delves mode, and then just using this, the Path Painter block, because that's going to end up giving us not only a lot of jump, but a lot of movement speed, which can end up being really good with this guy, like seriously. So anyways, let's use our ultimate, and then there we go. We've already got our big boy damage out again. And unfortunately, we see that this guy is able to one-shot. He is really powerful. So if I time this right, I can be super lazy and just use my right click over and over to keep me at invulnerability frames, because for some reason all this guy is literally doing is just ground pounding, which arguably is one of the strongest attacks in the game for most enemies. So why did I lose stacks? That's kind of weird, unless I wasn't building them. I lose track of it all. I'm sorry, guys. Battle aura, refresh our ult, and then I think I right clicked out of that. Doing our right click real quick, kind of almost messed things up right there. I mean, again, you know, if we're fighting an enemy that just has some stupid move like this, then honestly speaking, we are invincible, so long as the enemy is attacking slow enough. But the problem is that most enemies we're going to end up fighting will end up attacking consistently, in which case we would have to be doing a lot of dancing, right? See, why every time I'm right clicking, it's actually expelling more and more of my ultimate ability, which I do not understand. I've never seen that before. Like, is there a mechanic to this guy that I don't understand, where if we keep using our right click, it actually expends our ultimate? Yeah, it's actually spending my ult right now. Actually, you know what? Watch this. I'll let go of my primary attack and then I'll right click. No, it's still doing it. What the heck? I've never seen that happen before. Why is right click taking away stacks? What the heck, dude? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know if that's a bug or if there's literally something that I'm missing with this character. I'll take a peek at that in a sec. But to keep in mind, as I mentioned previously, we're not going to end up being as strong as other characters. Like, this is very impressive that we have this guy able to end up... Look at that. That was so weird. This is really impressive that we have a character like this, and a new character at that, that can end up competing in these delves. Like, we're actually doing... Oh, we're not even doing enough damage to end up beating this boss in time. Well, never mind then. Okay. There's literally nothing I could end up doing to increase the time. So, unfortunately, it seems like this is a poor example where we just have to beat this guy. We would have to have beat him with a group of people. Or maybe I would just have to do it again without right-clicking so often, because that's obviously lowering the amount of damage that I'm doing. I guess I could use my flash as well. I'm kind of an idiot not doing that. Yeah, let's just use our flash right here. All right, let's push it down to the wire. Here we go. We got this, dude. So I should be letting him attack me because I'm using my arcane vial, and boop. So we could have been doing big boy damage the entire time. I just wasn't doing that. Sorry guys, my bad. Like I said, I don't have as much experience using this guy in the delves to end up giving the absolute best example. But yeah, I should have been using my arcane vials. That would have actually gone like so much more swimmingly. So yeah, this guy can easily end up handling these depths. That's pretty crazy. That's actually really crazy. So I want to take a quick peek at our right click ability. A parry attack dealing damage in a cone that grants the user invulnerability bubble. Nimble Dance removes one melody. Oh, it does? Seriously? If used correctly during Bard's song buff, it will add one melody. I didn't even know that, dude. Well, you learn something new every day. I've never seen that. I guess just goes to show that I don't use the right click out in the open world, so I never had that happen. I'm an idiot. I should have studied up on this guy like 100% before doing this video. That's a little bit embarrassing, but anyways, who cares? Thanks for watching, gamers. Really appreciate it. Most of all, this video was just to show you an absolute end game bard and just how powerful he can be. He's got the damage, survivability. I mean, like, the fact that we lose stacks by using our right click ability, which gives us the invulnerability frames, kind of sucks, because that's a terrible trade-off, because you're trying to keep at least 7 stacks in order to end up optimizing your damage. But I don't know. Is it a class that you want to main? That's entirely up to you, but you definitely can main this character for both speed farming, which is obviously what I would end up using it for over the delves. But the fact that this character can end up handling these depths is impressive. I would still end up picking other characters over the bard for the delves, but the fact of the matter is that I am so impressed that we've got a character that can end up handling both speed farming and delves as well as it does, because that is very rare in this game. Usually it's just, oh, this character is good for delves, or this character is good for speed farming. You never really get one that's in the middle. There's a few of them, but not many. Either way, thanks for watching. Smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want to support the channel, and have a great day, guys.